There is no papering over the breaking news tonight that the federal agency in charge of presidential records has asked the Justice Department to investigate the former president's habit of ripping up official documents and or squirreling them away to Mar-a-Lago. John Berman here in for Anderson. We'll have more on that shortly. Also, the House January 6 Select Committee subpoenas another highly visible player in the scheme to overturn the election. Committee member Adam Schiff joins us for that. First, though, new information on the making of the Republican Party's censure resolution against two members now serving on the committee and the genesis of language in it describing what happened at the Capitol as, quote, legitimate political discourse. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell's take, as you know, stands in contrast to that.
We're here. We saw what happened. It was a violent insurrection for the purpose of trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power after a legitimately certified election from one administration to the next. That's what it was.
So in the face of that, last night, Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel put out an op-ed which quickly became fodder for talking points, including on this program. Bottom line, it's our fault, the media. Quoting her, if corporate news media wants to know why Americans don't trust it anymore, they should look no further than the shameful, outrageous, and patently false coverage of the resolution adopted by the RNC to censure Reps Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. She goes on to say that she has repeatedly stated that violence is not legitimate political discourse and that media outlets who pretend the RNC believes it are acting in bad faith. In other words, believe what she says about the party's position, but not the actual words in the party's resolution, which we and others accurately reported. If we got it wrong, well, so did Mitch McConnell. And now there's more to go on. Information from a source involved in the process who tells us those three words, legitimate political discourse, were not included in early drafts. Instead, Representatives Cheney and Kinzinger were condemned for taking part in a, quote, Democratic-led persecution of ordinary citizens engaged in nonviolent and legal political discourse, which invites two interpretations. One is pretty grim, namely that the RNC views this and everything else that day as nonviolent and legal political discourse. A more charitable interpretation is that in a ham-fisted way, the resolution's drafters were trying to draw a distinction between the mob you see here and those who did not invade the Capitol. But if that's the case, if this draft language truly was intended to make that point, however indirectly, then why didn't it end up in the final version? Why was it replaced by the legitimate political discourse characterization? Or now that we're talking, why wasn't there language in the resolution simply saying what Mitch McConnell said? I'm not going to keep you waiting. Here's why, of course.
The January 6th rally was a protest against a crooked election carried out by unhinged Democrats, big tech, and working with the fake news media, all working together to defeat Republicans and your favorite president, me. The real insurrection took place on Election Day, November 3rd.
They just can't quit him. So for all that Ronna McDaniel scolds us for failing to hear her repeated condemnations of the violence at the Capitol, and for every Republican lawmaker who stands up and says what Mitch McConnell said about it, their voices only matter so much, because one voice matters more. Meantime, as we mentioned at the top, a source familiar with the matter tells CNN the National Archives has asked the Justice Department to investigate his handling of White House records. The former president, as you know, habitually tore up official documents after reading them. According to the Washington Post, archive officials suspected he might have broken laws on handling government documents, including potentially classified material, and reached out to DOJ. Joining us now, CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel, CNN political analyst and New York Times Washington correspondent Maggie Haberman, and CNN chief